So at Know Your Value, we're always talking about glass ceilings and equal pay. Joining us now, senior editor-at-large for Fortune magazine, Leigh Gallagher. Her new piece is entitled Second to None, but Still Number Two, in which Leigh raises questions about a new trend among some of the tech industry's fastest-growing companies of hiring top-performing women to be their chief operating officers. Sounds like good news, right? But Leigh writes this: the fact that this C-suite shift is happening in the most dynamic sector of our economy gives advocates of gender parity in the workplace plenty of cause for hope, even as the minuscule number of female CEOs remind them of the stubborn obstacles that remain. Will the current wave of women COOs in tech give rise to a new, more robust pipeline of female chief executive candidates teed up to take top spots of their own? Or does the COO role risk becoming a glass ceiling in itself, a position from which accomplished women leaders stoke the industry's growth in a perpetual supporting role without breaking into the CEO boys club? And Leigh, I ask you why you ask this question, because I see this happening in a lot of ways where women play strong roles, but they are supporting roles that end up being the only role they ever get.
Absolutely, Mika. And you know, a few years ago, I started noticing this trend, and I just started keeping tabs on it. I started keeping a list every time a tech company named a female COO, and it just accelerated, and it just kept gaining momentum. And it's also true, by the way, in corporate America, in a broader landscape, the Fortune 500. The women who are CEOs of the Fortune 500 today, or have joined in the past year, were all COOs beforehand. There, it's usually a path to succession to the top spot. In the tech world, it seems to be another story, and it's still unproven because we don't yet know what these women are going to do next. But it is definitely a thing, and you set up the question perfectly. Is this a wonderful thing, or is it going to be a limiting thing? I mean, we really don't know, because you know it can be the number two job, male or female, is very often a behind-the-scenes role. The COO does the inside work, the unglamorous stuff, so that the CEO can shine and be external and set the vision. So,
and that is being a leader and acting like one every step of the way, which I think sometimes is a struggle for women. I'm re-releasing Know Your Value in the fall with a lot of interviews and new advice for women on knowing their value, but also communicating it effectively. And in it, I interview Elizabeth Warren, who talks about being a professor at Harvard, but always being like the person who did the bad shifts. She used the quote, women who are mopping the floor up at night, doing everything to support the entire goal for everybody. You know, and how do we step out of that? How do we step out of the subservient role?
Well, there's a few ways. I mean, one is, and look, Sheryl Sandberg is sort of the perfect example of a model COO, because there's no one more high profile in the role than Sheryl Sandberg. And in fact, she arguably was the spark that had this whole movement started. All the headhunters in Silicon Valley say, I can't tell you how many times I get called for a Sheryl, as if it's something you can order on Amazon. But that's the model everybody wants to replicate, because it has been very successful. And of course, right now, Sheryl and Mark are in the trenches figuring out this epic crisis that the company is facing. But she is not in a supporting role. I mean, she is side by side with Mark Zuckerberg, so that's different. So some people say COOs should get out there and make a name for themselves. That's one way if they're looking to become a CEO, which not all COOs are. Right. But that's one thing. Get out there, be associated with the brand. And then, you know, another thing is just try to have a say in the vision. I mean, that's the big difference between CEO and COO. Setting the vision, making the decisions that really guide the company rather than just executing.
And using your voice every step of the way when you're getting there, because some of the attributes that women bring to the table, some of the value that women bring to the table, which, by the way, could have prevented a few financial crises in the past, are they're risk averse and a little bit more methodical in their thinking, and
better EQ.
Better EQ, exactly.
Lead with consensus building. I mean, all these things women over-index for. And this is the kind of thing that makes great leaders. So women just have to kind of double down on that and ask for it and want to move to the next level. I mean, I have a stat in the story that from Korn Ferry did a wonderful study last year. 16% of women CEOs that they surveyed, only 16% of them thought that they wanted to be a CEO. More than half of them had to be asked or tapped on the shoulder. So
Boy, we wait for that.
But more women in this role is definitely a good thing, because when you have more women in any C-suite role, they hire more women. It just sort of, it creates a sort of flywheel. But the big question is, will we see more women in the very top? And I think we all can agree that that's one thing the world definitely needs.
It's a great question. You can read the article in the latest issue of Fortune magazine. Leigh Gallagher, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mika.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.